Okay, so namaste everyone. Welcome to this session. I think it must be fifth one or fourth one. I don't remember. But basically, we are reading Samadhanatmak Bhautikvad in Hindi and English. The idea is to make a bridge to this lesson through for English language. Um, and we are at the chapter number 2, which basically talks of history of humans, right? So I mean, it gives the puts the human history in perspective. So I mean, one of the thing that basically comes into my mind is that our idealism sometimes we hear that puts the history or the cycle of time as a cycle, like that there would be eras of Satyug era, then Dwapar, Treta, and then there is a cycle of after Kali Yuga. So in that sense, it doesn't see history as a linear, but it sees history as cyclical, right? But if you look at the way that science looks at history, it looks at in a linear fashion. Okay, so. So then, so if we look at it, that Babaji seems to be more aligned with the way science is looking at history, that it started with the uh, advent of humans in jungle age, stone age, then the age of village and clans, and then after that, the age of submission, that Das Yug that he talks about, and then the age of struggle, which where we are at the moment, right? And then and subsequently he says that the age of Samadhan, that which is when one becomes resolved, right? So in the same way, he puts history in from another perspective, that history on the basis of how humans came together, right? So he says that the intent of coming together is inherent in humans, that they cannot live in isolation. So they would basically have an expectation to come together. So initially they came together based on the race, then skin color, then the ways of worshipping, and finally, at the present moment, people are coming together based on their um, comfort and accumulation. संग्रह सुविधा के स्तर के अनुसार लोग साथ साथ आ रहे हैं, है ना? And then even though, so what he is saying is that all these bases have not been adequate in providing the um, satisfying human being, right? So he is proposing another way of coming together. Okay, then basically he talks about uh, the ideological history in which he says that there have been two main ideologies ever since humans became capable of thinking, uh, articulating themselves. So there have been idealistic or Ishwarvadi thinking, theistic thinking, and second is the materialistic thinking. So he says that these are the this is the entire spectrum of the thinking that human being has thought over. And so he's proposing another uh, uh, way of another reference of thinking, that is the coexistential thinking. Okay. Then he also gives another perspective of history, is as the cultural history. Okay, this is that the way people dressed themselves, the way they married, and the way they celebrated, or the way they mourned at the event of death, the dance and music and so on. So this is the cultural history of humans that he talks about. And we will see some more things as he's talking about the economic history or Arthik Itihas, which is basically what humans considered as valuable for themselves. Like in the age of ancient times, the jungle age, they considered the objects of food, wood, stones, etc., as the valuable things, and the claims of the age of submission, or the age of the age of kingdoms, right? So there some other things became valuable, right? Like for example, gold and other things became valuable at that time. And now in the age of struggle, then we see mm, that money has become most valuable thing, right? So which is a symbol of uh, uh, what the objects with which we actually have some sensory uh, comfort. So those things have become most valuable now. We will actually read further on this. Let me quickly share in this document. And uh, meanwhile, if anybody wants to make any observations or comments, mm, maybe we can address that first. Okay, so Sanjeev Bhaiya, over to you.
No, no, I'm saying all good, Bhaiya. We can go ahead from my side if anyone else has.
Yeah, ठीक है. So mm, I will then maybe read the first paragraph. Yeah. And then we can have the round robin, so to say.
Yeah, is it possible to have it as full screen? Because then it becomes,
Ji.
Okay.
yeah.
Where
One thing
do
before
I?
we start, Rakesh. I mean, one thing before we, I mean, somehow I can't read Hindi properly, even though I understand.
Yeah.
So maybe I can read the English portions when the chance comes and somebody can help me with Hindi portion.
No, I didn't hear you very clearly. You said you can't read the Hindi one very clearly, right? That's
Yeah,
the.
yeah, Hindi very properly I cannot read, so I can read the English portions whenever that is
Okay.
possible. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We will actually call you for the reading the English part, and somebody will read the Hindi part for you.
yeah,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Rakesh.
Okay. Okay.
What Renaldi was saying, Bhaiya, on top this menu is there, na, where the book name is there. There you go to the view, no, no, just yeah, view, and then at the bottom of this you will find full screen. Yeah, so we
Okay.
can see more content on screen. Yeah,
Is it better?
yeah.
It is. If you could just also expand it a bit so the words become bigger, maybe from 125 to maybe 140 or something. Is it, if it's possible?
अब वो ऊपर वाला मेन्यू चला गया.
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, चलिए, it's okay.
You can go back, do it, and come back.
It's okay.
Okay. So, okay, Didi, we'll
Yeah,
please
We'll
manage.
we'll manage.
Yeah, we'll manage, yes.
Okay. ठीक है. So, I'll just read this first paragraph. It says the ideological history of humans और वैचारिक इतिहास. इतिहास का तीसरा चरण विचारधाराओं से शुरू होता है. यही अभी तक के प्राप्त विचारों के अनुसार ईश्वरवादी विचार है, जो प्रकारांतर से तीन रूप में मानव के सम्मुख है. पहला अध्यात्मवाद, दूसरा अधिदैवीवाद, तीसरा अधिभौतिकवाद. The third stage of history commences with ideologies, the first being theism, categorized under three headings: Adhyatmavad, Adhidaivikvad, and Adhibhautikvad. So, so if you look at it, what is the distinction between these three things? So, idealism, it basically recognizes that God or some omnipotent power is the primary reality, and all everything else is secondary or non-existence or unreal in some sense, right? So basically there are three branches of this: adhyatmvad, adhidevivad, and adhibhautikvad. So adhyatmavad, if you look at it, I mean, I'm giving my view or understanding of it, is that adhyatma or uh, uh, the Vyapak Satta or Brahma is the only reality, everything else is illusion. So, which is basically the standpoint of Vedanta. Okay, Adhidevivad is the thing is that of the affairs of the world is in the control of Devi Devta, right? It's like, for example, Indra is in control of the rains, and basically there is a hierarchy of them, and they control the affairs of this world. So this world is not self-driven, but it is in the control of certain heavenly uh, powers. Okay, so that is Adhidevivad. Adhibhautikvad seems to be saying that this uh, the physical reality is there, but there is more to physical reality than the physical itself, right? So that is Adhibhautikvad, right? So I try to uh, place various schools of thought of idealism into that, and it is a difficult one. So I would say that Buddhism and Jainism would probably fall under Adhibhautikvad. Adhidevivad is all the uh, practices of Tantrupasana, etc., are would be coming under this, and Adhyatmavad is Vedant. So if anybody over here has more knowledge of these things, most welcome. And maybe Raghava, you have some background of this.
No, Rakesh, I think this broadly categorizes, I guess.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we can move further on this.
Ji. I will read this section, and maybe Raghav bhai can read the English part of this paragraph. So
Okay.
इन तीनों वादों को सम्मिलित रूप में आदर्शवाद नाम दिया गया है। आदर्शवाद का मूल प्रतिपादन रहस्यमूलक ईश्वर केंद्रित चिंतन है। आदर्शवाद के अंतर्गत ऐसी रहस्यमयता को ज्ञान माना जाता है। अध्यात्मवाद वाले आध्यात्म ज्ञान को परम मानते हैं, अधिदैवीवाद वाले अधिदैवी ज्ञान को परम मानते हैं, जबकि ये सभी रहस्य हैं। इन तीनों वादों के अनुसार ज्ञान को चेतना, व्यापक और सत्य बताया गया है। मूलतः ईश्वर का प्रतिपादन अथवा सत्य का प्रतिपादन रहस्य पर आधारित होने के कारण ईश्वर भी, सत्य भी, ज्ञान भी रहस्यमय रह गया। ओवर टू राघव भाई।
Yeah. These three together have been called as idealism, centered on the idea of mystery-based, God-centric contemplation. Idealism fundamentally asserts that such mysteriousness itself constitutes knowledge. Adhyatma Vedists believe that spiritual knowledge is ultimate. Adidaivika Vadists consider their knowledge as ultimate, and Adibhautik Vedists claim their knowledge is ultimate. However, all these are mysteries. According to these three ideologies, knowledge is described as consciousness, omnipresent, and truth. However, because of the foundations of God and truth is rooted in mystery, both God and truth, along with knowledge, remain shrouded in mystery. Over to you,
Yeah.
Rakesh. Yeah.
Right. So basically, this all these systems of thoughts of idealism, they think that there is something profound that is there in that is beyond the comprehension through logic. So something which is beyond the comprehension uh, through logic, and something that is beyond the senses, something that is mm, uh, cannot be described in words. So that is the way this knowledge has been said that, and that is why it says that it is rahasya or mystery. So because we try to explain what is happening in the world, what is happening to our own lives, what actions is resulting into what outcomes. We are not able to actually explain uh, our our world So that is the reason this idealism actually has actually defined that there is whole structure of thought is there, which is centered around mystery. So what Babaji actually says that this is mystery based, रहस्य मूलक है ना, मूल में उसके रहस्य है. And then it is God centric, though I mean, I had asked him that there are actually many of these idealistic thought that they consider, do not actually believe in God, but actually are not really God as the center. But he said that what I understood overall is that they consider matter as not the primary reality. They consider there is some reality other than matter, which is omnipotent. That is what he meant by Ishwar Kendrit. And then contemplation. So it is mystery based, God centric contemplation. That is his samiksha or critique or assessment of all this idealism. Okay. So it says that the this whatever all this mysteriousness about how uh, these mm, divine powers control the affairs of the world, right? That itself is knowledge, and it is not so it and to actually have this knowledge is something mm, which is meant for which can be achieved only through certain sadhana, right? Or which is how these have actually positioned themselves. Okay, yeah, we can move further in case anybody wants to have any comment or observation.
Yeah, I think it is very clear the sense that the word mystery, right? I mean, see, something is mysterious to me as I understand. If I don't know the rules of how the things work, then it is a mystery.
Yes.
If I don't know the formula for it, I don't know how it works, of course. So clearly, the current way of idealism or whatever is the philosophy does not have any logic specified that at least I can try to understand. So,
Yes.
so science does for physical things for some extent, but it
Yeah.
does not have answers for the how the other things look. So clearly, science is also a mystery to me, equally as
Yeah.
idealism. Yeah. So
In some senses, yes. And if you
yeah.
look at it, one of the mm, yeah, so there is one chapter in Manav Vyavahar Darshan called Rahasya Mukti. That is chapter 17 there, and that has been described. There, Rahasya or has been defined as something that you cannot understand or uh, cannot explain to others.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
जिसको हम ना समझ सकें ना समझा सकें, राइट? सो समथिंग, और जब हमको किसी चीज को समझना होता है, then we have to understand something, then you have to actually use logic for that. Without actually use of logic, you cannot explain anything. You have, without using words, you cannot actually explain. So if you actually say that something is beyond words, it cannot be expressed in words, it is beyond comprehension, then this thing actually becomes locked. Then whatever you are saying actually becomes false by a simple logic, right? If you try to say anything about it, it is by definition false, right? By definition it is this thing that does not capture. But here Babaji is saying is begins with the premise that knowledge can be expressed in words and can be understood and can be explained. Okay, so that is in the idealistic world. There is one uh, equivalence that is given. It is that state like gud khaya hua gunga, right? Somebody who has eaten a piece of jaggery and but he is dumb, he is not able to speak, he is not able to articulate. Now in that person only knows what that taste of that jaggery is. He cannot actually express. So Babaji actually countered that with the thing that is it only the people who cannot speak eat the jaggery? क्या जो केवल गूंगे हैं वही गुड़ खाते हैं, या कोई बोलने वाला भी गुड़ खा सकता है? Somebody who has actually uh, somebody who eats Jaggery. If he can articulate himself, if he can speak, then he will be able to explain what the taste of jaggery is like, and how to obtain the jaggery, and how what its effect is on the body. Right. So in the same way, he says that somebody who has realized the knowledge and can speak and can articulate themselves, then they should be able to actually explain what knowledge is like, how to obtain it, and what is the result of that knowledge, what is the evidence of that knowledge. Right. So that is the basic foundation of Madhya's darshan, that knowledge is not a mystery. It is something that can be articulated. It is something that can be brought into education. Right. Okay. So we can move further on this.
शिल्पा दीदी आप पढ़ेंगी?
जी
या जी जी
अच्छा हाँ
please.
बताइए
नहीं ठीक है and maybe if Spencer is also
या
available
he
we
can
can
read the
do the
English.
English part.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
मानव में अज्ञात को ज्ञात करने की इच्छा बनी ही रही है। फलतः इन मुद्दों पर जितने भी वाङ्मय तैयार हुए, वे सब वाद विवाद के चंगुल में फंसते गए। इसमें प्रमुख बात यह रही है कि अनेकानेक प्रबुद्ध ईमानदार लोग सच्ची साधना में समर्पित हुए। साधनाओं की विविधता बढ़ती रही, अतः मतभेद का अनेकानेक रूप में प्रचारित होना और प्रतिबद्धता होना देखने को मिला। इन सब के अथक प्रयास के बावजूद मूल मुद्दा रहस्य ही रहते आया। ईश्वर के नाम से रहस्यमयी महिमाओं का कथन हुआ। ईश्वर को रिझाना ही मानव जीव का कल्याणकारी मार्ग है, ऐसे बताया गया। इस कथन के साथ सभी अभ्यासी महापुरुष सहमत रहे। इस रहस्यवाद में अध्यात्म का आधार रहा है। इसी मूल आश्वासन के आधार पर ही अनेक लोग ईश्वर कृपा को पाकर अभिभूत अथवा तृप्त होने, समाधिस्थ होने, मौन होने अथवा बोधगम्य होने के लिए निष्ठापूर्वक प्रयत्न भी किए। ऐसे निष्ठावान तपस्वी, ऋषि, यति, सती, संत, मौनी महापुरुषों को सामान्य लोग यह भी मान लिए कि उन्हें ईश्वर कृपा हो चुकी। परंपरा में यह तथ्य देखने को मिलते रहा, फिर भी रहस्य ही रहता आया और अभी भी इसी प्रकार देखने को मिलता है। यस स्पेंसर।
The desire to know the unknown has always been there in humans. As a result, whatever literature was developed on these topics, it became entangled in debates and arguments. It is noteworthy that numerous intelligent and honest individuals dedicated their lives to sincere sadhana. The diversity in sadhanas continued to grow, leading to the promotion of their differences in various forms and their increasing rigidity. Despite the tireless efforts, the core issues of mysteriousness persisted. Many mysterious stories were told about God's greatness. It was declared, pleasing God is the sole path to human welfare. All the great seekers have been in agreement with this saying. Spiritualism has been the basis of this mysticism. It is only on the basis of this fundamental assurance that many people made dedicated attempts to attain fulfillment, samadhi, silence, or enlightenment through God's grace. The common public assumed that such dedicated ascetics, monks, and saints had already achieved God's grace. This assumption became apparent in the tradition. However, the mystery persisted, and it is still observed in the same way. Great.
Yeah. So it is kind of straightforward, and flows from the what where we basically started, that this desire to know the unknown, right? I mean, unknown, there are need to demarcate between what is known and what is unknown. Like, for example, people know that there is happiness and unhappiness, right? But how to have the continuity of happiness, okay, that is unknown. In the People know that there is behavior, that there is relationship, but what is what is the limit of behavior? What happens when you do in a relationship which results in harmony, and what happens when you do something which results into disharmony? So that is unknown. So there is so the desire to know the unknown has always been there in humans. To demarcate known and unknown is the beginning of some sadhana. And then basically, idealism made sincere efforts towards this sadhana, and typically their efforts was in terms of silencing the thought, and assuming that this chatter of mind is the cause of all the disturbance. If we actually achieve this absolute stillness, uh, then there is no problem, and in that state, that there is absolute oneness with the God, right? So, and then basically, that absolute God became the center point for all the sadhanas, and pleasing that God is the path for human welfare. So that path actually became like bhakti and virakti. So bhakti for the God, bhakti means devotion for the God, and virakti meaning detachment with the world. So this is the path of bhakti and virakti, devotion and detachment, right? Which to move towards a certain absoluteness, certain silence, right? So uh, this was the path, right? And if you see that because uh, uh, there were there were many kinds of sadhanas were proposed, and these differences between sadhanas actually became also a point of contention between people, and the people actually, and the symbols that they used for performing their sadhana, they actually became the points of differences, and the explanation for them, the arguments that they actually gave, also became the points of contention. So the people actually ended up fighting on the basis of that also. So, so that is what this paragraph actually is trying to say. Yeah. Any observation? Anyone would like to share anything?
It's fine to me. Rajesh.
Yeah. Good. Sanjeev bhaiya, you want to? You unmute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Renu Didi will like to read the next section.
Yes, Bhaiya, I can read.
They are the small paragraphs, so you can read two small paragraphs in one sit.
Okay. इस बीच एक दूसरी विचारधारा आई जिसको भौतिकवाद नाम दिया गया, जिसमें भौतिकता को कार्यकलाप के रूप में द्वंद्वात्मक होना प्रतिपादित किए। इसके मूल में अनिश्चय, अस्थिरता को माना गया। इस प्रकार अस्थिरता एवं अनिश्चय मूलक भौतिकवादी वाङ्मय मानव को मिला, जो अपने प्रभाव के रूप में तर्क संगत विधि से लाभोन्माद, कामोन्माद, भोगोन्माद के रूप में प्रज्वलित हुआ। भैया, कैन यू टेक इट अप? ईश्वरवाद के अनुसार इन तीन प्रवृत्तियों को दुखकारी और पाप मूलक बताया गया, साथ ही स्वर्ग एवं भोग को स्वीकारा और स्वर्ग नरक के बंधन को बताया। वहीं भौतिकवाद ने इन्हीं उन्मादों को सर्वोपरि स्वीकार किया। इन्हीं प्रवृत्तियों के समर्थन में राज्य और अर्थ नीतियों को, प्रक्रियाओं को, पद्धतियों को अध्ययन कराया। I'll read the English one also simultaneously.
जी.
Yeah.
जी.
Can you pull it down? Is it? Yeah, okay. All right. In the meantime, another ideology arose known as materialism, in which materiality was pronounced as dialectical in its activity, with certain uncertainty and instability taken as its foundation. Thus, an uncertainty and instability based materialist body of thought came to human beings, which, through a logically consistent method, intensified in the form of profit obsession, sex obsession, and indulgence obsession. According to theism, these three tendencies were regarded as causes of suffering and as rooted in sin. At the same time, heaven and enjoyment were accepted, although heaven and hell were described as bondage. Materialism, by contrast, upheld these very obsessive tendencies as supreme and in their support. State and economic policies, processes, and methodologies were systemized and taught.
So we talked about idealism, and then he says that in as probably a reaction to uh, the oppressiveness of idealism, another ideology arose, which is materialism, because idealism was rooted in mystery, and mystery uh, became surrounded by different kinds of practices to uh, attain the knowledge of that mystery to so therefore and those became rigid, and the common people were suppressed uh, by the people who tried to rule over others, to subjugate them. So therefore materialism arose as a reaction to that, right? As we see, uh, as I mean, in European history, we see as Renaissance, which was basically a reaction to the oppressions of church, right? And there we basically see that uh, they actually saw they said that we will not believe into anything that is not sensorily perceptible, and will actually not believe into things like God or values and things like that, which we cannot touch and feel, right? So they said that so there in this so this is the ideology of materialism, and there and there they found that material nature is having duality inherent to it, and uncertainty and instability was its foundation. And this body of thought, then which was saying that this duality and struggle is inherent in nature, this they developed into an ideology trying to explain everything that is happening around us in the nature and with the human beings on that basis of dialectics, or the duality as the polarity between right and wrong, good and bad, uh, positive and negative, constructive and destructive, generative and degenerative, right? Only two forces. And then, and these two basically, and they try to actually explain through logic. And one of the thing that because they started observing the nature more closely, they ended up actually making more and more discoveries with material nature. And with that, lot of objects of utility were discovered, and leading to um, uh, scientific discoveries, and industrial revolution was the result of it, right? So he says that this actually also entered into education and led to a collective mindset of obsession or unmad, right? Which means that when you say that human happiness is connected with material things, it led to an development of obsession for that, leading to these three obsessions that Babaji talks of, that it is labhonmad, kamonmad, and bhogonmad. Profit obsession, sex obsession, and indulgence obsession. Because all the happiness is connected to the material thing. So therefore, amassing more and more of that and fulfilling our lives with that becomes the only pursuit worthwhile, right? And you negate everything that is spiritual, that is concerned with values, as something which is nonsensical. So therefore, everything that makes sense is in terms of what comes through the senses. So therefore, that turns into an obsession after it becomes part of education. It becomes part of the media. It becomes part of our advertisements and business, and also the society and systems that we have. Right. So it takes the form of a collective obsession, right, which we see all around us. So yeah, so while in theism or idealism, these tendencies of obsession were actually regarded as causes of suffering, and but at the same time, they also ended up saying that in heaven you get, um, if you actually are virtuous, in heaven you will get as much of these as you like in this in heaven. So that means that heaven and enjoyment, they were accepted. But at the same time, they were also saying heaven and hell are bondage, and there is a state of moksha which is beyond heaven and hell, right? So while in the materialism they said that all this is hocus pocus, we will actually um, mhm, say that these obsessive tendencies that are there are the supreme. What we really want, the hidden desires or the subconscious, is something dark, right? So it basically, if you try to bring them to the fourth, then you will actually be more liberated, so to say, right? So they built all the state economic policies, processes, and methodologies, right? All the things were systematized on this, and they were also brought into education. So any observation or comment on this?
Just want to add.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
wanted to
please.
add. So as I understand science, right? So the basic
Mhm.
difference is a basic thing that they have done is a separation between material and human nature, as I
Mm.
understand, and they explained all the science, all the material things, how it works, and specified, okay, material has these bosons, these quarks, these leptons, so on and so forth, and explained everything. And they completely ignored the human nature, which is again remained mysterious even in science. Why humans behave and what are the fundamental things that drive, which, and the assumption is if I know these physical laws of material,
Mm.
bosons, quarks, somehow I can explain humans and how they form and how these societies are also built. Somehow,
Yes.
so that remains a mystery in science, and the assumption is this is not required, right?
Mm.
So that's what I could understand, and clearly materialism doesn't answer everything, and it is mysterious to me as well of how we actually work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, that's a good observation. Right. Yeah. Right.
Rakesh, yeah, I also had something to say. If we can look at the section we completed reading just now, if we can go a little bit upward. Uh, yeah, this one. So although yeah, we have read this quite often in the first paragraph, what we are seeing is, on the end of the second line, अस्थिरता एवं अनिश्चय मूलक भौतिकवाद. Or in English, we are writing it uncertainty and instability based materialist approach or body of thought. So Somehow ever since I've been studying Madhyas Darshan literature, this thing is something which I found very counterintuitive. And although with logic I try to set in myself, but I still, my thoughts get, there's a confusion that keeps on coming again and again. As a student of science and practically, even if we are not a student of science, it can be, I think, easily seen intuitively that in science a lot of things are predictable. I mean, they are certain. Every day we use our laptop, every day we use our car, every day we use our mobile, and they work. Okay, electricity in our homes and the construction of our homes. So to call this body of thought as uncertainty and instability, it takes a lot of effort to grasp it actually. So how do we, I think the challenge is on my side personally. I mean, the concept by author is absolutely clear, but how can we help students like me to get this thing, settled in ourselves? That is the question.
See, basically, but the way that I have understood is that it science or all the discoveries or all the postulations that it has been making, it basically says that it is matter at its root, okay, is actually uh, not having it doesn't describe the root of orderliness in matter. And therefore, actually, when humans, which are actually also described as the product of evolution in matter, is also having that complexity and instability and uncertainty that we see, the dialectics that we see, the struggle that we see around in the humans, is the product or is the result of the inherent uh, instability uh, uh, and uncertainty in matter. It is true that humans, through technology, that we have been able to actually achieve uh, many of the things things of utility. But it is important to distinguish between science and technology. Technology and science are not the same thing. साइंस एक्चुअली बाबा जी यूज टू से साइंस विज्ञान का ज्ञान पक्ष गलत है, तकनीकी पक्ष सही है. And the technology is not necessarily outcome of science or the theory of science. Technology is an applied discovery. It is basically the way that electricity works, the way the certain things work together. So it is not the accomplishment of science, it is the accomplishment of technology. Science, when it is tries to actually explain the behavior of matter, it actually tries to explain the reality. There it basically says that there is instability and uncertainty. And there is an entire body of thought which basically describes. And when you take it to the humans, they say that there is class struggle, which is basically inherent, right? And and then in the way how the evolution actually happened, when they actually explain that evolution also happened as a result of struggle and development of certain traits which are more stronger, right? So, in the same way, we say that uh, human being, human psyche, the study of human psyche, they say that there is a dark side of humans, the subconscious, which basically is mm, is the our real self, and we need to bring it to the forth, right? So science part of it is actually is trying to when it is trying to study the basic nature of things, it is showing that there is instability and uh, uncertainty inherent in matter. But technology is actually demonstrating objects of utility, and somewhere we are actually attributing those uh, things to science, which does not necessarily is true. Yeah.
जी
That your
जी भैया
question is quite valid. Yeah. Sheila Didi has something to say.
जी
Yeah, this, I mean, after this thing, then the question also arises that if something is innately, मतलब उसका जो core nature है, अगर वो अस्थिर and अनिश्चय है, if it is indefinite and uncertain, then how does it give rise to certainty in the technology part? ये तो वो वाली बात हो गई कि the ज्ञान is गड़बड़, but the विज्ञान is good. So I'm also vibing with what Babaji now I'm vibing with his question of सत्य से मिथ्या कैसे. ये तो मिथ्या से सत्य कैसे हो गया? That sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, so that's what he used to say, that
actually let me add भैया I was about to ask this thing which Sheila Didi
Yeah.
just mentioned now as a supplementary question, so
Yeah.
please
So-
Rakesh भैया.
So basically, you used to say that all the technological discoveries, be it the aeroplane, be it the electricity, are the layman production. They are the products of human imagination and कल्पनाशीलता, कर्म स्वतंत्रता. ये साइंस के accomplishment नहीं है. That is what he used to always argue. That he used to say these are common man's production. मनाकार को साकार करने की जो इनहेरेंट कैपेबिलिटी है वो टेक्नोलॉजी के मतलब का है. एंड टेक्नोलॉजी एंड साइंस आर not necessarily always aligned. The fundamental science and the technology are not necessarily aligned. Like for example, science may actually give the explanation of what is there at the level of atoms and what is the beginning of universe and so on. But but what we have in terms of technology, like the rockets and all the electronics and all this, so on and so forth, is it really tied to all those theories of science? I mean, I would basically need to, I have a question mark on that. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to add over here in the sense that this seriousness in science, right? See, actually, this tech, for example, if I build a bridge, I know that it will not fall down. If I build an aeroplane, I know that it will not fall down if it's flying. So basically, what I'm doing is one level of thing is I build models, and I know how to build reliable models, and then model the nature, and then build bigger and bigger things on top of it. It doesn't mean that I know that model is truth, right? I mean, I don't know why that model works. For example, if a doctor is there, he knows how to put a medicine and then make the person live. But he did not know the lower level model, right? It's a mystery for him of how the electrons and quarks work below over there. So it doesn't mean that if I know a higher level things or build systems on top and I know that it will work reliably, make things work reliably and very definitely, it doesn't mean that I know why those things are working that way. For example, right? So I can build layers. So science basically builds layers, layers on top of layers on layers. And if you go to the bottommost thing, they say, I mean, you clearly see how the electron behaves at one point. I'll not be able to define, right, very clearly. But it doesn't mean that I cannot build something with an electron and make current work. So that portion is definite. So the technology, as Rakesh told to vibe with him, yes, the technology is I'm building models and I know that it's going to work, but it doesn't mean that I know everything at the bottom level of how it is working, right? So it is mysterious if you go down, right? Just to try to make my understanding clear of what Mr. Sanjeev ji told. No, it is very clear to me that science works. I mean, the technology works, and I build models, and it is definite. I know how to compose things because that's how human reality is there. I can build and compose things, but it doesn't mean that at the lowest level that is reality, right? Yeah, that's the way I was thinking about it.
जी
Yeah.
I think this is an ongoing process. We'll think more about it when I show चलेगा. We can go ahead भैया. Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
नमस्ते भैया।
Yes.
जी
Yeah.
नमस्ते सभी को। थोड़ा लेट जुड़ने से भैया पूरी तरह से कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाए, तो क्या जो अभी आपने डिस्कशन किया उसका एक बार सारांश कोई भी रख सकते हैं भैया?
संजीव भैया, यू वांट टू?
मैं कुछ कुछ पकड़ पाया हूँ लेकिन कुछ मिसिंग लग रहा है।
भैया एक वो एक्चुअल में वो लंबा हो जाएगा सारांश, तो
ठीक,
इट्स
मैं
डिफिकल्ट।
रिकॉर्डिंग
वो सिर्फ
मैं
वो
रिकॉर्डिंग
अनिश्चयता, अस्थिरता मूलक भौतिकवादी विचार जो है ना, उसके ऊपर बात हो रही थी भैया, कि वो उसमें अस्थिरता है या प्रैक्टिकली तो काफी स्थिरता दिखती है, लैपटॉप भी चलता है, कार भी चलती है, तो उसको अस्थिरता क्यों कह रहे हैं, दैट वाज द क्वेश्चन। उसके ऊपर एक चर्चा हुई भैया।
वेरी नाइस।
तो संजीव भैया आपने उसको क्या कंक्लूड किया है राकेश भैया के
अभी
इस
अभी
क्वेश्चन?
अभी कंक्लूड नहीं कर पाए भैया, एज आई सेड इन माय रिमार्क्स के दीज थिंग्स टेक टाइम, यू नो, फॉर क्लियरिटी टू इमर्ज इनसाइड द स्टूडेंट आल्सो। सो भैया ने अपनी तरफ से एक्सप्लेनेशन कर दिया है, एंड आई विल थिंक एंड ऑल ऑफ अस विल थिंक मोर अबाउट दैट, दैट्स व्हाट यू नो शीला दीदी आल्सो सेड।
ओके।
तो कृष्ण भैया बस बेसिकली इतना कह रहे हैं कि विज्ञान, मतलब बाबा जी का इसमें ये कहना था कि विज्ञान का ज्ञान पक्ष गलत है, तकनीकी पक्ष सही है। सो इसी सेज दैट कि अगर बेसिक रियलिटी को एक्सप्लेन करने जाएंगे साइंस में, तो दैट उसको वो अनिश्चयता अस्थिरतावादी बताते हैं। लेकिन जो टेक्नोलॉजी है वो उसमें डेफिनेटली जो है कुछ यूजफुल चीज़ों को बनाया गया है, और वो चीज़ें काम करती हैं, रिपीटेडली काम करती हैं। राइट, सो ही बाबा जी यूज टू से कि जो टेक्नोलॉजी है वो लेमैन प्रोडक्शन है, जबकि साइंस जो है वो एक थियोराइजिंग है, जिसमें कुछ एक पार्ट ऑफ द रियलिटी को डिस्काउंट किया गया है, और केवल एक पार्ट ऑफ रियलिटी को डेवलप किया गया है, जिससे जो जिससे जो है वो जो पूरा जो वाद डेवलप होता है वो एक्चुअली एक पूरी चीज को एक्सप्लेन कर पाने के अंदर असमर्थ है। We'll actually think further on this, and I think this is a good point of discussion. That's where Sanjeev Bhaiya is actually leaving us. Yeah.
जी जी, थैंक यू भैया, थैंक यू। कुछ कुछ कनेक्ट हुआ, मैं रिकॉर्डिंग सुनूंगा वापस।
जी जी। आगे देव भाई आप पढ़ेंगे आगे का?
श्योर भैया। सांस्कृतिक इतिहास थोड़ा सा ऊपर करेंगे भैया।
भैया
आई
अभी
थिंक ये
सॉरी सॉरी
ऊपर
इससे
वाला
पहले
ये
वाला
लास्ट
नहीं है।
पैरा रहता है, इसके आधार पर।
राइट, ओके। इसके आधार पर एक सुविधावादी व्यवस्था की परिकल्पना सामने आई, जो भोगवाद का समर्थन ही रहा। सुविधावादी व्यवस्था का विचार भौतिकवाद का प्रसंग हुआ। इसका प्रधान कार्य रूप मानव का संग्रह की ओर प्रवृत्त होना पाया गया है। उल्लेखनीय बात यह प्रमाणित हुई कि संग्रह का तृप्ति बिंदु किसी भी स्थिति में व किसी भी मात्रा में देखने को नहीं मिला। इस प्रकार भौतिकवाद व्यवहार रूप में संग्रह के चक्कर में फंस गया और आदर्शवाद रहस्यमय ही रह गया। इस प्रकार दोनों विचारधाराओं द्वारा व्यवहार रूप में सार्थक, सुंदर, समाधानपूर्ण और सुखद सार्वभौम व्यवस्था हाथ नहीं लगी। आज की रिक्तता यही है, पहले भी यही रिक्तता रही है। On this basis, a convenience-centered system was conceived, which in effect supported indulgence. This conception arose within the context of materialism, whose primarily whose primary functional expression was found in the human tendency towards accumulation. It became evident that there is no point of satisfaction in accumulation under any condition or in any measure. Thus, materialism in practice became caught in the cycle of accumulation, while idealism remained mysterious. Consequently, neither of these ideologies has, in practice, yielded a meaningful, beautiful, resolution complete, pleasant, and universal system. This very void persists today. The same void existed earlier as well.
बिल्कुल. So says that basically materialism led to a convenience-centered system, सुविधावादी व्यवस्था. So because if the happiness is in the comfort, then the system that we will actually devise for that is will ensure that there is welfare in terms of availability of comforts for all, right? So this is what the convenience centered system is about. So this led to everybody actually having the tendency towards accumulation, and and also it became evident there is no point of satisfaction of accumulation under any condition or in any measure. That means, however, in whatever conditions that we have accumulation, or to whatever measure you have accumulation, you cannot basically reach the point of satisfaction. So then basically idealism, while it continued to be mysterious, the materialism became stuck in accumulation. So these are the two lines of thought, materialism and idealism. Both of them have become stuck. Right? So humankind, in their way of thinking, have become stuck in these two things: idealism in mysticism and materialism in accumulation. So therefore, both these ideologies have not resulted into where the humankind actually wants to reach. So there is a need for vikalp, or the alternative to these two ideologies. So it's important to actually recognize that there is a new outcome can only come only when a new thought is actually brought about. Based on the old thought, you cannot get the old new results. So this is something that needs to be understood. That okay. So we can move further on the Sanskritic Itihas.
Renu Devi, you will read again.
Yes, Bhaiya, I can read.
So you can complete this Sanskritic Itihas. It's a small section. इसको पूरा ही पढ़ दो.
ठीक है भैया. सांस्कृतिक इतिहास. प्रकारांतर से संस्कृतियों के बारे में यह मान्यता है कि संस्कृति का आधार कपड़ों और अलंकारों की सजावट का विस्तार और उसके तरीके, शादी ब्याह के रीति रिवाज, संतान, अन्न व वस्तुओं की प्राप्ति के साथ उत्सव मनाने का तौर तरीका, कोई मर गया तो शोक संवेदनाओं को व्यक्त करने का तौर तरीका, नृत्य, गीत, संगीत, घर द्वार की सजावट व स्वागत का तरीका. प्रधानतः भक्ति और श्रृंगारिक प्रकृति सहज महिमाओं को आधार बनाकर व्यक्त किए हुए गीत, कविता, साहित्य, मूर्ति एवं चित्रों को संस्कृतियों का रूप मानते हुए समीक्षा करने पर शिला युग से धातु युग, धातु युग से कबीला युग, कबीला युग से दास युग, दास युग से संघर्ष युग की संस्कृतियां बेहतर से बेहतरीन मानी जा रही है. I'll read the English version.
Yeah.
In another way, it is held that culture is based on the modes and extent of adornment in clothing and ornaments, customs and rituals of marriages, the ways of celebrating events like the birth of a child, harvest, or other significant achievements, the manner of expressing grief at death, the ways of dance, music, decoration, and welcome. Further, songs, poetry, literature, sculptures, and paintings, primarily arising from devotional and aesthetic expressions, are also regarded as form of culture. It is assured that human culture has evolved progressively, transitioning from the Stone Age to the Iron Age, from the Iron Age to the Village Age, and from the Village Clan Age to the Submission Age, and eventually from the Submission Age to the Struggle Age.
Right. So basically, we can see that uh, so he's basically talking about what does culture mean, okay, and what it represents. So it's the way we actually our clothes, what we eat, how we celebrate, how we mourn, all those things actually are part of our culture. And culture, in one sense, is the mirror of our thought, our belief, our ideology, right? So he is, so I think in the subsequent chapters or the places in the reading, we will actually understand what a humane culture is like, right? Whether the culture of humane culture would actually represent how will that culture integrate um, and the values that humans actually have, right? So that is what it needs to be we need to understand, right? So
Yeah,
it will
I think
be it
one point
will
is somehow I don't see food in this list of 1 to 5 points. Food is an important part of culture also, right?
yeah, the food is also a part of culture only. Yes,
I
yes.
think harvest, the
I think
word
this
harvest
should be
covers some
connected
part
to,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lighter point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So basically, yeah, we see that culture is a kind of a place to mirror that mirrors our civilization. संस्कृति जो है वो सभ्यता का आईना होता है. Like it when we actually are for example a marriage when it happens. So marriage is all about symbolism, right? Which where um, uh, there is a time when both the groom and the bride, they wear good clothes and they are made to take vows on how they will remain committed to one another for the rest of their lives and so on. So it is in some sense uh, it is to demonstrate it to the world uh, about how they will live day to day, right? It is a kind of a vow, uh, vow that they take, a pratigya that they do, right? In the same way, the time when when a child begins their education, right? That you basically go to a temple or uh, make the child write on the slate with uh, uh, so that it makes a new beginning, right? So it's always so while the day-to-day education is a part of civilization, culture is what you do on a particular event, and those events actually leads to certain impressions on the mind, right? That impression on the mind is something which basically is an important aspect. It it gives uh, some sort of a stamping, या संस्कार बनाता है वो हमारे अंदर, right? It kind of makes something that yes, I need to hold these values as sacred, as something which is right. I need to hold on to them, right? So that is why the culture is important, and culture actually has developed over times as people's thought has evolved. Yeah. जी. So we can go to the next paragraph of Arthik Ityas or the economic history of humans.
Ji. So anyone who has not read so far and is in a position to read, you are welcome. शीला दीदी, वंदना दीदी.
जी भैया मैं पढ़ लेती हूँ।
जी जी
आर्थिक इतिहास का आधार मानव परंपरा में एक आयाम है। इसे ऐसे भी कह सकते हैं कि अर्थ परंपरा में मानव कितना डूबा रहता है और तैरता रहा। तीसरी विधि से ऐसा भी देख सकते हैं कि अर्थ के प्रति मानव कितना जागृत रहा या भ्रमित रहा। Economic history is one of the dimensions of human traditions. It describes how, within the economic traditions, human beings have contributed to sink and float. In the third way, it may be seen as historically the context to which human beings have been awakened or deluded with regard to economic matters.
You can read the next para also. These are
जी
small
भैया।
para. Ji, please.
सबसे पहले जंगल में यानी कि आदिकाल में जंगल का ही अर्थ को ही अर्थ मानता रहा। इसकी गवाही यही है कि यदि मानव जंगल में रहते और जंगल को खाने की वस्तु के रूप में पहचानते रहे हैं, चाहे शाकाहारी करते हों या मांसाहार, शिला युग आने के उपरांत शिला और जंगल को उपयोगी वस्तु के रूप में पहचाना। मानव के लिए उपयोगिता का स्वरूप आहार आवास रहा ही है और अलंकार क्रम में उपयोगिता को पहचानना स्वाभाविक रहा है। जंगल युग की अलंकार प्रणाली से शिला युग में परिवर्तित हुआ, धातु युग में परिवर्तित हुआ। यही तीन उपयोगिता का आधार आवश्यकता के रूप में होता आया। In the earliest time, the human being regarded the forest use itself as a valuable resource. This is evident from the fact that early humans lived in forests and recognized them as sources of food, whether vegetarian or non-vegetarian. Within the advent of the Stone Age, both stone and forest came to be recognized as useful. For further being usefulness, for human being, usefulness was primarily been in the form of food and shelter, and thereafter it has been natural to recognize usefulness in adornment. The adornment changed from the jungle age to the stone age and further in the middle age. These three have continued as the basis of usefulness in the forms of need.
जी, so it is, I think, basically straightforward that how economics, what is earth, or what is useful resource, or the valuable resource. So, so people actually, when they were in the Stone Age or Jungle Age, at that time they considered the forests and itself as the source of whatever they considered as valuable. The food is the most valuable, and food and shelter became uh, important, as basically humans needed places for dwelling, whether in caves and things. So then those places and the food, they became the valuable resource, right? And as they started actually developing, articulating themselves, the language became, they developed language and the ways of expressing themselves. The another aspect entered into their uh, resources, valuable resources, is called adornment or alankar, right? So then they started adding, say, for example, drawing on those things and objects of utility like utensils uh, and uh, uh, and so on and so forth. So those things also became the objects of necessity and the resources. So people actually started the so far till the time they basically reached the metal age, right? Then the adornment actually became more primary, right? So the food, shelter, and adornment, ahar, avas, and alankar, right? The clothing and so on. These became are the resources for which were important for humans, and these became the basis uh, for which they would actually exchange also, right? Between themselves. Like, so for example, somebody has hunted and they would actually have a plenty of that, while they would lack um, some other thing. So they would exchange uh, that with the other people. So that is how the early economics actually developed. So whatever one considered as the valuable becomes the basis of economics, right? That is the beginning of economics that Bavaji here is talking about. Yeah. जी, can,
We can go ahead. It is straightforward, I think.
जी.
Any questions? Krishan bhai, do you want to read the next two paragraphs?
जी भैया पढ़ सकता हूँ।
Please, please.
यहीं से पढ़ना है, सम्मान
हाँ,
योग्य।
जी जी, दो पैराग्राफ पढ़ लीजिए, छोटे छोटे हैं।
जी भैया। सम्मान योग्य व्यक्ति की पहचान जंगल युग से ही प्रारंभ हुई, क्योंकि जंगल में रहते हुए वन्य प्राणियों से जूझना एक अनिवार्य स्थिति रही। इस कारण वंश या परिवार में से अथवा समुदाय में से जो व्यक्ति क्रूर प्राणियों की हत्या कर पाया, ऐसे व्यक्तियों का समुदाय या परिवार ने सम्मान किया। जैसे जैसे आवास, अलंकार और आहार संबंधी वस्तुओं को इकट्ठा करने की बात आई, इसके लिए विविध प्रकार के उपायों को सोचा गया तथा उसे क्रियान्वित किया गया। इस क्रम में जब मानव प्रवृत्त हुआ तो इनमें से जो अधिक एकत्रित कर पाया वह बड़े आदमी के नाम से पहचान में आया। इस प्रकार आदि मानव काल से बड़े आदमियों यानी सम्मान योग्य आदमी की दो प्रजाति इस रूप में देखने को मिली। The recognition of who is worthy of respect began as early as the jungle age. Conflict with wild animals was an inevitable aspect of life in the jungle. Consequently, individuals within a family or clan who could successfully hunt and kill fierce animals earned respect from their community. As the need to gather resources for food, shelter, and adornment arose, various strategies were devised and implemented. As humans became more focused on accumulation, those who were excelled in gathering these resources came to be recognized as big people. Thus, since ancient times, two types of individuals worthy of respect have been observed. आदर्शवाद के अनुसार पाप, अज्ञान, स्वार्थ दूर होने का आश्वासन जिनसे भी मिला, उन्हें तीसरे प्रकार से बड़ा आदमी माना गया। उनको प्राय गुरु के नाम से इंगित व संबोधित करते रहे। इसके पहले की दो प्रजाति के आदमी में से एक राजा के पद में आ गया, जो बाहुबल और युद्ध का अधिकारी बना। दूसरा संग्रह करने वाला, व्यापार कार्य में भाग लेने वाला बन गया। इस प्रकार से तीन स्वरूप में बड़े आदमी को पहचानते आए। According to idealism, those who offered the assurance of liberation from sin, ignorance, and greed were regarded as big people. They were commonly referred to as gurus. Of the previous two types of big people, one became the monarch, possessing physical might and the capability to wage wars, while the other, the hoarder, became the trader. In this way, these three forms have been recognized as big people. और आगे पढ़ना भैया।
अभी इतना देख लेते हैं भैया, है ना?
ठीक।
सो आप कुछ इस पे ऐड करना चाहेंगे? एनीथिंग दैट यू वुड लाइक टू से भैया?
जी भैया, मुझे तो ये फ्लो सुन के इतना अच्छा लगा, कनेक्ट हुआ कि बाबा जी ने कितना बारीकी से हम यहाँ तक जो पहुँचे हैं। तो कई बार ये कल्पना में आता नहीं था। आज जैसे ही पढ़ा तो जंगल युग से कैसे चीजें जुड़ती गई और ये तीन जो वर्ण व्यवस्था वाला पार्ट है वो कैसे बना है, उस तरफ ध्यान गया भैया। तो बाहुबल के आधार पर वो राजा तक कैसे पहुंचा, और फिर ये जो आहार, आवास, अलंकार की वस्तुओं से वो बड़ा आदमी कैसे बना, तो ये जो वेश्य जिसको बोल रहे हैं वो क्या कनेक्ट हो रहा है। और तीसरा भैया ये जो जो पाप से मुक्ति दिला देगा, जो इग्नोरेंस से मुक्ति दिला देगा, वो एक तीसरा वर्ग ब्राह्मण के रूप में स्थापित हुआ। ऐसा मैं कनेक्ट कर पा रहा हूँ भैया।
बहुत बढ़िया। राइट। सो बेसिकली along with the economics, parallelly developed the pehchan or the recognition of who is worthy of respect, right? And that actually started from the jungle age itself, because people have the need to recognize somebody as the leader, because there is a fear and they want to uh, they want to actually find the security uh, under something. So somebody who is able to kill a big animal here, they would actually see, yes, you are our leader, and you will fight uh, with 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 the fierce animals, and we will be under your protection. That is how basically the village clan age actually developed. And as the accumulation grew, then some people actually ended up having more of them, and more resources meant more power, and therefore also, if somebody has more resources, then he can probably, if he is kind, if he actually can go to them, then we can probably get something from them. So that is how people recognize them also as good, as the big people, right? Similarly, a third person actually said, a third kind of big person who happened is the person who would give the assurances, right? Assurances that it is okay, that you will that you can become liberated from ignorance, can become liberated from uh, greed. mm. So basically, the inherent tendency of human was recognized that humans are basically sinners, and they are basically ignorant, and they are basically selfish, right? So that is so, and this third kind of person became assumed the leadership of the kind by giving assurance that I can actually liberate you from sin. I can actually liberate you from the greed. I can liberate you from uh, your selfishness, right? So this is the way that in human history, uh, these three power centers, so to say, actually have developed. Yeah.
And it continues till today in different forms and expressions and ratios.
Indeed, बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है. Yeah.
राकेश भैया, एक प्रश्न बना है यहाँ पर कि
जी.
अ, ठीक है, वो जंगली से जंगली जानवरों से बचने वाला कॉन्सेप्ट भी कनेक्ट हो रहा है, और फिर कहीं कहीं थोड़ा कल्पनाशीलता के आधार पर आहार, आवास और इनके लिए भी मानव ने प्रयास किए होंगे। जिसके पास ज्यादा अक्यूमुलेशन हो गया वो बड़ा आदमी बन गया। लेकिन ये कॉन्सेप्ट कैसे जनरेट हुआ कि ये पाप है, ये पुण्य है, और फिर उससे मुक्ति दिलाने वाला जो है, ये जो तीसरा कैटेगरी जो डेवलप हुआ, इसके पीछे जो और कोई बारीक रीजन कुछ कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है यहाँ पर ऐसे।
Yeah, I think ये जो हमारे at the time when the civilizations developed, right, where I think at the time of village clan age itself, they were uh, trying to explain that how these natural forces are there. What happened? That why did this deluge happen? Why did this earthquake happen? Why did this volcano come? Uh, who is at the root of that? The idea of some omnipotent God was actually developed from the time of village clan age itself. And when the civilizations actually developed near the rivers, that time we actually had more time uh, from day to day survival to actually develop these thoughts, right? And then certain ideologies were actually developed around God-centric thinking. And they said that actually all the humans, whatever bad is happening because humans are performing sins, and whatever good is happening is because they are performing certain virtues. So the idea of sin and virtue, God, and also the Devi Devta, etc., also started coming. And with this whole uh, body of thought uh, started taking form. तो उस तरीके से आई एम एबल टू सी. शीला दीदी, यू वांट टू से add to this?
No, I'm not adding to this. I'm just after you finish this, then I have something else.
तो
हाँ सो
इसमें
जी
हाँ इसमें जो कल्पनाशीलता ही लगा है इसमें, क्योंकि कहीं भूकंप आया होगा, कहीं कुछ प्राकृतिक आपदा हुई होगी, और फिर उसमें से उसको कल्पनाशीलता के आधार पर गॉड से या किसी और चीज से जोड़ा गया,
हम्म
देवता से। पर मतलब भैया एक्चुअली अगर देखें इसको बहुत मतलब हम देखें कि हम उसी प्रोसेस से गुजर रहे हैं, तो
हम्म
ये जैसे आहार का है, ये तो आइडिया आ सकता है कि भूख लगी होगी तो आहार का आइडिया है, फिर रहने के लिए प्रोटेक्शन के लिए आवास का आइडिया आया होगा, क्योंकि वो चीजें उपलब्ध हैं धरती के ऊपर उपलब्ध है, तो उसी से कैसे जोड़ के बनाए।
हम्म
लेकिन ये चीज तो धरती पर उपलब्ध थी नहीं, इस तरह का कॉन्सेप्ट तो ये मतलब बेसिकली मानव में ये थॉट ही कैसे आया कि ऐसा कुछ शक्ति हो सकती है, ऐसा कुछ भगवान हो सकता है, ये समझ नहीं था।
I I just want to add one thing here, Via. I think it's most more to do with the mystery part of it. So for simplest example would be I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but chicken pox, smallpox were it's still, if you go to the rural area, it's called Mata Ana,
हम्म
right? So when this thing was not discovered, how did this really happens? Some probably people who wanted to be at some place, some reached to take a certain pedestal stage. This is talked about something called uh, like Devi entering into somebody's body, and
हम्म
that's how that mystery was kind of shut. But then slowly, gradually, as logic developed and science developed, many of these things were actually busted. So
हम्म
that's one thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, so basically it is happening in the phenomena is happening in the nature, but you are not able to explain it through your normal observation. So when you are not able to explain through normal observation, you actually end up making hypothesis for it. And one hypothesis is that there is some omnipotent God, and we need to actually please that God to get his grace. So if that thought actually itself develops in the form of the need of a priest, the need of various rituals, and so on and so forth. So this actually develops the key idea is that the phenomena of the nature is not uh, something which is self-driven, but actually is in control of a higher entity. That is the key idea, and that key idea gets further developed is the body of thought. जी कृष्ण भैया।
जी जी भैया, ठीक है।
शीला
एक्चुअली
दीदी।
मेरा जो प्रश्न बन रहा था ना, वो इसी से बन रहा था कि जो दृश्य है उसके बारे में तो थोड़ा बहुत हम देख भी सकते हैं प्रत्यक्ष, और कुछ अनुमान भी लगा सकते हैं, लेकिन जैसे जो अदृश्य है उसके बारे में कुछ लोग सोच पाए हैं, तो उसका बेस क्या रहा होगा वो था। बट ठीक है भैया, आपने काफी अच्छे से रखा है, मैं और सोचता हूँ इसके ऊपर।
बढ़िया।
हाँ, मेरा जो प्रश्न था वो थोड़ा पीछे का था, मैं गॉट इन्वॉल्व इन समथिंग एल्स, तो वो मिस हो गया। दो चीजें थी। एक तो हम अलंकार को अगर अडॉर्नमेंट शब्द कह रहे हैं, तो what we mean by अलंकार, because it is used in two places. One is that आहार आवास and अलंकार क्रम, and then it's also saying जंगल युग की अलंकार प्रणाली. So are we talking about tools or adornment as in decoration, or are we including tools in adornment?
Yeah, so basically we were discussing that जैसे food, shelter and clothing, these are roti kapda makan, है ना? These are the basic three needs. So if you see, the alankar is a big catch-all word
Hmm.
in which many things actually come into things.
Hmm.
But if you look at it, this is it will have various tools. It will have things to keep ourselves warm. It would
Hmm.
have things which you will uh, like for example a chair in
Utensils.
the house,
Yeah, or
utensils.
utensils. Hmm.
Yeah. So all these things. So once I asked Babaji that, okay, that it seems to be capturing so many things in
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
You don't know where to draw the line, and when it becomes accumulation and when it is a basic need,
Hmm.
right? So this is so I don't really have a very good answer for that. That
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
for can actually sit on the floor also, or you can have a chair, and you can have even a comfortable sofa and recliner, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So all of them. So where do you draw the line? Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
that
Hmm.
a basic need. Like for example, in case of food and shelter, it is very clearly there that okay, you will. Food is what is nourishing to the body, and
Hmm.
shelter is what will actually protect you from the weather, um, climate, and
Hmm.
provide a place which will give you a cover from the rain
Nature's
and
fault.
नेचर के उससे एडॉर्नमेंट का जो है वो दैट एक्चुअली इज अ लिटिल ओपन एंडेड हाँ
Hmm.
दैट हाउ मच
Hmm.
हाँ सो आई डोंट हैव अ वेरी गुड आंसर फॉर दैट
Hmm.
बट
And
Yeah, I was
जी
wondering, won't this also be pegged at the structure of the body? तो जैसे आपने सोफे की बात करी, वो भी तो ऐसा चीज जो बॉडी के जो स्ट्रक्चर को सपोर्ट करता हो would be good, would be called an alankar that is appropriate. So recliner, if it is supporting the structure of the body, and if it is
या
meant for people who need that kind of support, then it is a valid alankar, is how I had understood. That finally everything is about um, uh,
आवश्यकता,
honoring the
the need.
structure of the body the way it is nature
Also,
has
बिल्कुल
designed.
hmm, also the need
बिल्कुल
of it.
Yeah, the
आवश्यकता
need of it. Yeah.
उपयोगिता को
Avashyak.
एड्रेस कर
Yes.
है ना आवश्यकता और उपयोगिता के अर्थ में होना चाहिए है ना दैट इज नीड
Yes.
एंड यूजफुलनेस आर द ड्राइविंग फैक्टर्स फॉर these things, right?
Anything.
So they, yeah, so the samanya akanksha or महत्वाकांक्षा जो है, they are both meant for that. Yeah. So yeah,
I
so
have,
this is
I
where
have,
I am right for Alankar.
okay. So I have just one more small question because it also comes across it comes in the Pathikram also, and that is this Alankar Kram.
Okay.
What is the Kram? Is it the increase in technology or the more complexity ka Kram? What is this Alankar Kram? Or is
Where
it
in this?
sorry, ये जो आहार आवास अलंकार वाला जो सेंटेंस है ना,
हाँ
मानव के लिए उपयोगिता का स्वरूप आहार आवास रहा ही है और अलंकार क्रम में उपयोगिता को पहचानना स्वाभाविक रहा.
या अलंकार क्रम मतलब कि इन द मतलब आहार आवास हैज बीन बेसिक एंड अलंकार का स्वरूप जो है वो बदलता गया है.
The whole technology विकास, that kind of thing.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the way, so right, the food and shelter that also has changed, but food has not changed as much as housing has changed, and the Alankar has changed the most.
Hmm.
I mean, the way that I was understanding is the food, shelter, and other materials that are required. I mean, so all others are lumped
Yeah.
into Alankar, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what.
other objects of utility, right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, we are about time. So is there anything anyone would like to add? Or we will meet again next week. Till we meet again next week.
All is well.
All is well.
Yes.
ठीक है सबको बहुत
That's lovely.
Yeah,
So
bye.
it was very nice meeting you, and we will meet on our next Sunday meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
भैया.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
नमस्ते।